MSSD, uplifting Bangsamoro lives.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And welcome to this occasion where we present our report on our accomplishments. Kasi we thought this would be really towards the end of the transition because may election po sanang naganap or magaganap. But we were told just recently that it will be moved to another date. But welcome to our staff, as I said, both from the regional office and also our provincial social welfare officers and representatives from the provincial operating offices. And of course, our partners coming from the international NGOs, UN agencies, local CSOs, and friends of the Ministry of Social Services and Development. Thank you for coming. Thank you for gracing the occasion. We're here to make a report to you, and rest assured that the report will be available also for the greater public. Sige, as mentioned by Director General Mo, our report will cover the whole transition period from 2019 to 2025. But of course, as we all know, the funding for the programs and projects of the BARM started in 2020. So some of the parts of the report will only cover that part, no? Pertaining to the funding that we were able to receive from the Bangsamoro government. Sige po. But by way of some background on the work of MSSD, we will go through some of the organizational documents such as our working vision and mission statements, our mandates, and then policy statement and some of the core values. We'll also present the social welfare investments for the BARM, both from the Bangsamoro government as appropriated by the Bangsamoro Parliament and those that come from the national government. And then we will present some numbers to present or to show the milestones of the ministry and then other institutional accomplishments and what we look forward to in the future. Sige po, let's start with our working statements of our vision and mission. So, I am saying it's a working statement because we still have to formalize the adoption of these vision and mission statements. But the idea is to have MSSD to be a model social welfare agency in the people's exercise of the right to self-determination towards a self-sufficient Bangsamoro that thrives in peace and social justice. So this is for the 10-year period for up to 2035. And then the mission statement is this. The MSSD is committed to uplift the lives of the Bangsamoro through inclusive policies and programs towards sustainable development and empowerment of individuals, families, and communities with special focus on the historically marginalized and vulnerable sectors. Okay, one comes from Bangsamoro Autonomy Act number 13 or the Administrative Code, which provides for the ministry's mandate, which says that the ministry shall provide a balanced and responsive approach to social welfare whereby the rights, needs, and interests of all its citizens within the jurisdiction with special focus on the marginalized and vulnerable sectors, and then mentioning them, are protected and addressed at all times, especially during the existence of a crisis, whether natural or human-induced, that affects their well-being and their participation in community affairs. Next slide. Okay, and then we have, I think, 4 objectives, which are the following. One is to provide an integrated welfare package to our constituents. And this would consider the rights, needs, and interests of our constituents, and also to coordinate with other service providers so that we are able to provide a holistic package. The second would be to address any socially disabling or dehumanizing conditions of the marginalized sectors at the community level in accordance with their faith and cultural practices. Third is to care for, protect, and rehabilitate differently abled persons as well as those who are socially disadvantaged for effective social functioning. And lastly, formulate and advocate for the adoption of laws, policies, and measures addressing social welfare concerns. Next slide. Okay. And the policy statement covers the Bangsamoro government as a whole. The Bangsamoro government, in its active pursuit of a just and humane social order in accordance with established laws, legal principles, and relevant international treaties and agreements, is committed to the care, protection, and rehabilitation of individuals, families, and communities within its jurisdiction with the least access to basic social services. Okay, and for the core values, we identified four with letters MSSD. One is moral governance, where we uphold the highest standards of honesty, transparency, and integrity in delivering social welfare services to build and maintain accountability and trust. S is for social justice. We commit to protect the rights, needs, and interests of all Bangsamoro constituents, particularly the marginalized and vulnerable sectors, by promoting inclusivity, fairness, equity, cultural sensitivity, and equal opportunities for all. And S for service excellence. We commit to provide effective, efficient, compassionate, and responsive social welfare services delivered with dedication to uplift lives and improve community well-being. And D is for development-driven. We foster people-centered sustainable growth and community empowerment. Okay, so now we go to the social welfare investments for the BARM. And as I said, this would include, yes, next slide. The investments would come from the Bangsamoro government funds as appropriated by the Parliament, and those that come from the national government under the General Appropriations Act. So as you can see, from 2019, it was 6.808 billion. And as I mentioned earlier, funds coming from the Black Grant only started in 2020. So we see in 2020, there was a marked increase, in fact, double in figures. It was 12.41 billion, and then same for 2021 relatively, and then for 2022 where we reduced, this is for MSSD, for social welfare under MSSD. We took out a big bulk of the infrastructure project on housing. So there was a marked decrease to 10.84 billion. In 2023, 9.8, and then 2024, 12.03, and for 2025, it's 7.45 billion, with some decreases at the national government investments. So in total, from 2019 to 2025, it's 71 billion pesos. Okay. Going to social services. Next slide, please. Okay, we break that down to regionally funded. That would be under the General Appropriations Act and also the Special Development Fund, which eventually was included in the GAAB. No? Pero may there were periods in time where it was separate. But in total, 19.2 billion po ang na-allocate for the BARM from 2020 to 2025. From 2.03 billion, naging 3.4, bumaba sa 2.8, umakyat ng 3.18, and then 89 in 2024, and then 3.85 for 2025. Okay, next slide please. But for the nationally funded programs, ang pinakamalaki po dito would be for 4Ps, yung grants, the cash transfers that are provided to some 270,000 plus beneficiaries in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. So a total of 51.8 billion from 2019 to 2025. As I mentioned, there was a marked decrease in 2025, which would also be reflected in the overall figure presented earlier. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so that would be the financial investments. Let's now go into the milestones, kumbaga physical accomplishments. What did we accomplish with the investments presented earlier? And this would be just highlights. Kanina tinatanong ako ni DG Lai, bakit tapos na raw ang transition report. I think we're still working on it, but these are just highlights of the MSSD milestones. Okay. Next slide. Sige. For social protection and poverty alleviation, we registered over 658,718 families that were provided with assistance including financial subsidy, training, educational support, and seed capital across the region. This would be for both regionally funded and nationally funded programs. And as we celebrate, we recognize the accomplishment of the BARM in reducing poverty in double digits. One of the reasons for the marked reduction in poverty would be financial subsidies or financial transfers, cash transfers that government has provided to poor families. And I think that is part of the contribution of the ministry as well as other ministries that provided a similar form of assistance. Next slide. And the breakdown of the figures are as follows. Under the regionally funded program, we have 33,427 families covered by the Unlad Pamilyang Bangsamoro, which is a livelihood program plus, no? It started with Bangsamoro Sagip Kabuhayan, which is a capital assistance program, 50,428. Over the years, this has developed into a more comprehensive program which we call Unlad Pamilyang Bangsamoro, where families are case managed and are provided with other forms of assistance, even with the option of scaling up or providing additional capital in a period of years. And then we have 3,800 families under Layag Badjao, which is a similar program to Unlad Pamilyang Bangsamoro, but focus on the Sama Dilaut families, especially in the island provinces. We have the Kilang Bangsamoro, where 5,428 families or solo parents receive financial assistance. And then 138,505 under the Angat Bangsamoro Kabataan Tungo sa Karunungan, where we provide financial assistance to elementary, high school, and college students. Okay, under nationally funded programs, as I mentioned, the highest number of active households provided with grants, which was in 2019, would go up to 370,600 Over the years, as directed by DSWD, the direction is to graduate some of those enrolled under the Pantawid-Pamilyang Pilipino program, considering the law that requires that you can only stay under the program up to 7 years. Okay. In fact, at present, 23,781 have already graduated. And then we have 57,068 under the SLP or Sustainable Livelihood Program. Next slide, please. Okay. Other than that, we are also looking at how MSSD has strengthened local structures and mechanisms and worked with other partners, other agencies for strengthened work through collaboration. So, under the 4Ps program, we've worked with LGUs in the establishment of provincial and municipal advisory councils for the better or stronger implementation of the program. We also have LGUs that have been organized where we have organized municipal local sustainable livelihood focals. For other partnerships and collaborations, yung Unlad Pamilyang Bangsamoro po, we've piloted a part of that program to include the graduation model of BRAC Philippines, okay, in 6 municipalities. And we're looking at possibly expanding that and incorporating portions or aspects of the graduation model under the Unlad Pamilyang Bangsamoro. Under Unlad Pamilya and also SLP, we've trained beneficiaries in partnership with MTIT, MAFAR, and MBHTE TESD. So maraming salamat po sa ating mga ministries, offices, and agencies that have partnered with us. Again, with MOH, MBHTE, and the Darul IFTA, we've conducted family development sessions on particular topics where they have expertise. And we've sustained the partnership with the Land Bank of the Philippines for the release of cash grants to 4Ps beneficiaries, considering that cash grants are not downloaded to MSST but are distributed or disbursed by Land Bank directly or through their intermediaries. Although ngayon, cash card na nga po. Next slide, please. Okay. Next would be the life-saving assistance during calamities and disasters, whether it's armed conflict or natural hazards that are the proximate cause. We've reached out or we've provided deliveries of this life-saving assistance 2,116,695 times. Hindi ko po sinasabing yan ang dami ng pamilya at individuals because some of the beneficiaries have received the same assistance twice or more than that, no? Considering the recurrence of disasters in their places. Next slide, please. Okay, yung details are as follows. Yung relief assistance, this would be the usual ayuda, no? Rice and family food packs and non-food items that are provided to displaced and affected families during disasters. 1,398,011. And under the Bangsamoro Critical Assistance for Indigents in Emergency Situations, which we provide to individuals in crisis, we've registered 111,402 beneficiaries under BCares, whether it's through our regional or provincial offices or dispensed by Mercury Drug or the hospitals, partner hospitals. And then 6,770 families received emergency shelter assistance in the form of cash, to help them rebuild their partially or totally damaged houses. 19,032 beneficiaries under our inihatid program, which is the humanitarian assistance for the transfer of individuals in distress. Many of them are returning Filipinos from Sabah and other locally stranded individuals, or those needing to go back to their places of origin or their families or communities. And then we have 22,346 individuals who benefited under the Ligtas Pamilyang Bangsamoro, where we provide capability building to communities and families that are prone to disasters, provide them with go bags and trainings in order for them to be prepared for disasters. And then we have 11,783 under the paghahanda at pagbabalik, where we provide anticipatory action by way of cash assistance or early recovery. And then for WASH, we have 27,945 beneficiaries provided with a whole range of interventions from water systems or water kits and trainings on hygiene, especially during emergencies. And for Cash for Work, 49,958 individuals have benefited under this program. And then for a certain year, we partnered with certain LGUs and provided 274 housing units, particularly for displaced individuals and families, as well as those who are homeless. And then under the nationally funded programs for disaster-related intervention, 474,174 individuals received the Social Amelioration Program financial assistance during the COVID period. Next slide. Okay, and for local structures and mechanisms, we've established the iba't, or the IDP Profiling, Assessment, and Response Tracking, together with some of our partners, which is now being rolled out. This would help us efficiently track and monitor displaced families or those that are prone to displacement. We've also worked with Bangsamoro Ready and other Bangsamoro ministries, offices, and agencies in the formulation of the Bangsamoro Disaster Response Plan. And because of the IDP law, we have established the Bangsamoro Internal Displacement Management and Monitoring Division within the ministry. So this is a new division, and this will provide a focal point in the coordination of our work in providing services to IDPs for their emergency response and recovery. And then we also contributed in the Bangsamoro Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Plan as Vice Chair for Disaster Response, and as we chair the response pillar of the BDRRMC. Okay, next slide. Okay, for partnerships and collaborations, we'd like to make special mention to partners who have worked with us on disaster response, such as the following. In the deployment of technical experts and assisting in IDP management, as well as strengthening the iba't system as a whole, we worked with UNHCR. And for logistics equipment and training of MSSD staff on humanitarian assistance and warehouse management, we thank the World Food Program. Also, with UNFPA and Nonviolent Peace Force, we've worked together in the training of parasocial workers in Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, and Basilan. We also thank the Red Cross Mindanao chapter as they partner with us, especially in the distribution of relief goods during disasters, especially during election bans. And with IOM for training, 17 MSSD focals on camp coordination and camp management. And then we have 15 hospitals and 10 branches of Mercury Drugstore under our B-Cares program. Okay, for child and youth welfare, we've provided assistance to 542,428 children and youth, and hopefully allowed them to gain access to social protection services, child protection initiatives, and youth development programs. The details are as follows. Under the region's regular program, we have the 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 program, where we provide a one-time grant or monthly grants to orphaned children. So under the one-time grant, 12,709 orphans were provided with financial assistance, and then we have 1,710 who continue to receive financial assistance on a monthly basis and are case managed by our social workers. And then we logged in 404 children in conflict with the law and children at risk who have been assisted by the ministry. And under the free birth registration program, together with our partners, we're able to reach out to 3,893 children for their birth certificates. And we have worked with 2,418 child development workers through trainings and technical assistance, 45 youth trafficking watch group. Youth were organized into trafficking watch group and provided with capacity building interventions. Under the nationally funded program, under child and youth, we have the supplementary feeding program and 523,262. This is cumulative. So some of them may have received the same supplementary feeding over a span of years. So I would not say that this would be the total number of children. This would be the total number of targets over the 6-year period. Next slide, please. Okay, for structures and mechanisms, we have developed and launched, and we are guided by the Regional Action Plan for Children, or RPAC, and this is with support from UNICEF as well as other partners. We also chair the Regional Subcommittee for the Welfare of Children, the Regional Juvenile Justice Welfare Council or Committee, which are both attached to the Social Development Committee of the BEDC. And then 148 MDTs were trained on child protection and gender-based violence, also with UNICEF support. And then we have formulated and are guided by our 10-year child protection and system strengthening roadmap, which is supported by the EU, UNICEF, CFSI, MSU, Maine Social Work Department. Maraming pumalakpak. Sige, thank you. Next slide, please. For partnerships, 110 child development centers were constructed or are still being constructed, some of them, and rehabilitated using contingent funds coming from the Office of the Chief Minister. 38 local governments and 15,164 indigent children were provided with birth certificates or with facilitation coming from MSD in partnership with the Japan government, UNHCR, UNICEF, and CFSI. And then we also contributed to the formulation of the Regional Action Plan for Youth, Peace, and Security, which was recently approved, and also the Regional Plan of Action for Nutrition under the leadership of MOH. And then we have the Early Childhood Care and Development Information System, which we have established and with provision of technical support from national government. This would help us document learners in child development centers and supervised neighborhood plays. Okay. And then we have 3 Bahay Pag-asa, or here we call them Bait al-Amal, which have been constructed to provide temporary shelter and rehabilitation for children in conflict with the law and through care, guidance, and reintegration initiatives. There are still 3 orphanages under the Ministry of Social Services being constructed to cater to orphaned and vulnerable children in the region. And then we have created the ECCD Technical Working Group to provide comprehensive programs for ECCD learners together with ministries, offices, and agencies also working with children and on education. And then we have 119 local councils for the protection of children that have been established. Sige po. Aside from the 3 Bait al-Amal, we're also operating the temporary shelter under the Provincial Office of Maguindanao del Norte. And that shelter caters not only to Maguindanao del Norte children, but some other children from other places, considering we still have to operate the one in Parang, no? Which is about to happen. Okay. Next, please. Okay, for women, under our Women's Welfare Program, over 42,929 vulnerable women, including those who are victim survivors of gender-based violence, have increased access to social protection services and hopefully will have meaningful participation in community development. Our PAPs under this performance indicator are as follows. 14,682 women participated in our advocacy and awareness raising campaigns or activities. 1,600 women also participated in community-based women empowerment sessions. 12,136 women in especially difficult circumstances have been assisted, including victims of gender-based violence, distressed OFWs, as well as trafficking. And then we have 13,504 women in crisis provided with life-saving assistance. And 8 GBV hotlines have been established across the region. 119 referral pathway boards have been installed across the region. 772 individuals have been trained on paralegal work for documentation and reporting of violence against women and children cases, as well as other gender-based violence cases. And then we have babae organizations organized, 108 of them organized and also assessed for further interventions, particularly also on livelihood assistance. Next slide. Under local structures and mechanisms, as I mentioned, we work with local governments for the installation of the referral pathways. And then we've contributed to RAP WPS, and we also chaired, but now it's the senior minister, right? Under the Bangsamoro Interagency Committee on Anti-Trafficking and Violence Against Women and Their Children, or 𝗕𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, which is a platform for different ministries to focus on the work on violence against women and also on trafficking. Under partnerships and collaboration, we've established a digital referral pathway under the iProtect case management system under the support or with support from UNFPA. And then Subatra and UNOPS provided us with some ICT equipment so that we can work on the iProtect and other digital systems, particularly on child protection and gender-based violence. Next slide. For older persons and persons with disabilities, we've registered 231,804 beneficiaries who have received social protection services. Next slide. Under the region's regular program, we have 49,137 who have been benefited under the Kalinga para sa may kapansanan program. And this would be the financial assistance monthly provided to them and other forms, no? Also, 4,810 assistive devices have also been given to older persons and persons with disabilities. We have the Hadiah program where 6,147 bedridden elderlies have received packages of goods that would alleviate their pain and help them get a better quality of life. And then 124 learners are enrolled in our Center for Persons with Disabilities who are provided with basic literacy and skills training, and 26 of them have already graduated. Andito po sila po yung kasama natin kanina when we were singing the Philippine National Anthem and the 𝗓𝗂𝗃𝗃 hymn. Thank you, mga bata. Under the nationally funded program, 171,370 beneficiaries are registered under the social pension for indigent senior citizens. Thank you, mga workers po natin. And then 216 have received their centenarian gifts of 100,000 pesos upon reaching the age of 100. Thank you. Next slide. And for local structures and mechanisms, we have established and we're now chairing the Bangsamoro Committee on Disability Affairs and the Bangsamoro Senior Citizens Committee, which are innovative or new platforms where we gather different ministries and offices to discuss programs on disability as well as programs for the elderly. For partnerships and collaboration, we have worked with MOSEP and the Asia Foundation in the drafting of the Magna Carta for persons with disabilities. And then we have worked with UNICEF and Human Inclusion for the training of our workers on basic protocols for handling persons with disabilities. Together with Cotabato City, PIDEA BARM, MBHTE TESD, and ALS, Cotabato Greenland Initiatives, CRMC, Dental Association, Cotabato Chapter, PWD learners in the center were provided with various forms of assistance. And with Davao Jubilee Foundation, we have provided prosthesis, orthosis, hearing aid, and other mobility aids to persons with disabilities in our region. So, thank you, partners. For mobilization on, especially in working with volunteers, we've registered 5,182 volunteers in our different communities. Working with our social workers and providing social assistance, social services to our communities. Next slide. 2,590 of them are under the ECCD program. So these are our child development workers and supervised neighborhood play workers who provide not only education and guidance and facilitate the feeding of our learners in the centers, but also our multiplier workers of our field workers whenever there's a need for additional workforce. We've also organized 2,592 lingkod pamayanan para sa kapayapaan program volunteers. And these are the para-social workers in the different barangays of the region. So sila po ay ating katuwang, particularly during disasters, but now more so, or even in addition to that, would be for social protection programs. Tumutulong din po sila sa ating mga municipal workers. Next slide. So sila po ay we mobilize, but we also provide them with honorarium to help them as beneficiaries, but also to facilitate their work as volunteers. In addition, 2,596 centers and social service facilities continue to operate as separate centers or are supported by MSSD or are operated directly by MSSD. Okay. Ang breakdown po niyan, pinakamarami ay mga CDCs. We included them because the augmentation of honorarium to child development workers help the centers operate. Without the workers and without augmentation, there would be difficulty in ensuring that quality early childhood care and development services continue in our communities. 3 orphanages have been supported with financial grants. Our Bahay Kanlungan in Maguindanao del Norte is operating, but hindi ito nasabi na isama, but we do have a temporary shelter also for CICL, also in Maguindanao del Norte. And of the 3 Bahay Pag-asa or Baital Amal structures that have been constructed, 1 is already operating and 2 are about to be opened and operated by the ministry. And then of course, we have the Center for Persons with Disabilities, which was transferred to us by DSWD 12 upon the establishment of the Bangsamoro and the inclusion of Cotabato City in the BARM. Next slide. Okay. So, yun po ang under our regular programs and nationally funded programs. But we also want to highlight other institutional accomplishments on systems, governance, and policies. Okay. For digital transformation systems, we have several. We have the Beneficiary Data Management System, which is a centralized data system of all program beneficiaries of the ministry. This comes with funding support from Australian Aid and UNICEF. Okay. We also have the iBat system, which I mentioned earlier, which helps us profile, track, and monitor IDPs and the services that have been provided to them. And then we have iProtect, which is the digital case management and referral system for child protection and gender-based violence cases with support from UNFPA. And then we have MSSD Serbisyo Online, which is going to be operational soon, which is the online application assistance especially for B-cares and client feedback for client feedback, and then to expand to cover other programs aside from BCares. And then we have PULSE, which is the Personnel and Unified Labor Services Engine, which is the centralized HR database, personnel records, and performance tracking. Operational na rin po yan, and we're expanding it to cover other areas of HR. And then we have the Integrated Learning Management Online, which is an online knowledge portal and e-library, which provides us with real-time access to social service knowledge products. So may link po dyan sa ating website. Okay. Still on digitalization, this time on cash assistance through the Financial Assistance Systems Transformation, or FAST. Under this program, we hope to streamline cash transfer programs by providing cash transfers through digital platforms. And this was done with support from Australian Aid and UNICEF. We've already piloted over-the-counter payments to 11,275 beneficiaries in Phase 1 and digital payments to 4,531 beneficiaries, including the parasocial workers, child development workers, and the learners in our center for Phase 2. Yung iba lang ay naantala because of the election ban. But now that it has been lifted, there's no hindrance to continuing the transfers through FAST. Next slide, please. Okay. One other milestone is the development of the Bangsamoro Social Protection Plan, or BSPP, covering the period of 2024 to 2028. With support from Australian Aid and UNICEF, we've launched the plan for a unified social protection framework in the BARM to benefit 1.06 million individuals, or 212,000 poor families. And this is not just for MSSD, but across the other ministries that are also mentioned in the Bangsamoro Social Protection Plan. And then, the other milestone is the enactment of the Bangsamoro Autonomy Act number 62, or the IDP rights law. Okay? And also the IRR, the implementing rules and regulations. So while this is an accomplishment of the Parliament, I think a lot of the responsibilities provided under that law lie on the ministry, and one of the responsibilities is to lead in the formulation of the implementing rules and regulations. And this has also been accomplished together with UNHCR and the Consortium of Bangsamoro Civil Society. Next slide. We also chair certain committees and subcommittees under the 𝗵𝗂𝐴, and this would include the Social Development Committee, which is one of the 5 sectoral committees of 𝗵𝗂𝐴. And then under BDAC, we also co-chair the Social Working Group, and under the Private Sector Committee, the Community Engagement and Development Working Group. Okay. So, marami po tayong meetings with these structures. So, what lies ahead of MSSD? Ito po, very near future. This is not strategic plans, but given the situation, the accomplishments that have been provided earlier, these are the next steps that we see in the near future. Some of them going beyond medium term, some are more strategic. Sige, next slide please. Okay, so considering that there will be devolution as provided in the Bangsamoro Local Governance Code, MSSD is moving forward in working at the devolution plan for LGUs, particularly in the area of social services. Isa po sa mga masalimuot na usapin on devolution, we think is social welfare, considering that a lot of the responsibilities will now be transferred to local governments, and we have to make sure that they are ready to take on that function. And then the strengthening of a robust, data-driven, and evidence-based programming, considering the different mandates, the different programs of the ministry. We want to look at program development, but making sure that these are data-driven and evidence-based. We also want to sustain partnerships and convergence between development partners and the ministry, and also the Bangsamoro ministries, offices, and agencies. We cannot work in silos. Many of our target goals are connected to one another, and we need to make sure that partnerships work between and across the different agencies. We also want to build up on our regulatory services for accreditation, registration, and licensing of social welfare and development agencies. We have a new division for that. Regulatory functions of the ministry are slowly being exercised, and we are strengthening our division so that we are up for all the requirements in the exercise of these functions. We also want to ensure social welfare interventions to other Bangsamoro communities are provided, and the smooth transition in the province of Sulu, especially in the area of social welfare. A technical working group has been created for this with national government under the IGRB. But aside from that, within the ministry, we are exerting effort to ensure that there will be no disruption of services in Sulu, and then there will be provision in other Bangsamoro communities of social services. Next slide. We also are working on the establishment of the Regional Alternative Child Care Office in the BARM, or its equivalent. Those who may not be familiar would want to know what RACO is. This is a structure that is required for alternative child care in the case of adoption, or we're looking at other models that are acceptable to Muslim adoptive parents and Muslim orphans. We also looking at the expansion of the Oversight Council that will monitor the implementation of 4Ps and social protection interventions in the BARM. So aside from the Bangsamoro Regional Advisory Council under 4Ps, we're also looking at wider and more comprehensive platform. And then expansion of the coverage of our digital payment system as reinforced by our information management system for smarter social welfare delivery. And I think lastly, okay, I get your attention kasi I think this is the last. We want to solidify durable solution interventions and reinforce local systems and mechanisms, especially in the light of the enactment of the IDP law that would help us address the needs and interests of the IDPs in the BARM. Okay, I think I've reached the last slide. Maraming salamat po, especially to the partners who have worked with us over the years, our workers, our employees. Maraming salamat po for helping us achieve our accomplishments. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.